Welcome to Motivational Monday. We're here with Mandi and Dustin, owners of Dedset Fitness. Now, we're trying to inspire people at home, and who better else than you guys? I'm excited to hear your story and how you guys got started in shifting your mindset. So do you guys want to start us off with your story?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Go ahead.
So I can start. So really my journey started, early in childhood. I was very overweight for most of my life. And, you try all the things, right? You try the magic pills and the magic wraps and all that stuff. And you just don't seem to get anywhere, or not long-term results anyway. And what I found eventually is that the hard way is the easy way, right? The work that we're trying to avoid, honestly, is the work that it takes to get where you want to go. And that was really a significant change in my life, is understanding that it's going to take a lot longer than sometimes you want it to. And it's the simple, daily, mundane steps are really what make the biggest difference, especially in in your health and fitness journey. And that's a big mindset change. Is, when we look around and we Google things and you see people losing, massive amounts of weight right away, and it's just easy, and you take this one pill and it's magic, and that's just not how it works. And so really, through my journey of being very overweight, and there was one moment, very significant moment, that switched everything for me. Is I went into a local store to buy some new jeans. And, I always knew I was a little bit bigger, but I didn't really think that much of it. And I went into the dressing rooms to try on what ended up being the largest size jeans they have, the normal people pants, right? And they didn't fit. And I remember, like, if I close my eyes, I'm still in that dressing room. And I just thought, what did you do? How could you let that happen? And that was really where things changed. And I just made a decision that this isn't going to be the way it is. It doesn't have to be this way. And I was bound and determined to figure out how to change my life. So that's kind of where it all started for me, and then kind of fast forwarding to, 2018, I'd kind of made some progress, and I'd started to understand some of this stuff. And I felt an obligation to really help other people, maybe not go through some of those same hardships that I went through and waste so much time, trying to find the answer. And, and then in 2020, I met Mandi, and, I can let her kind of tell her story.
Yeah, absolutely. So very similar to Dustin's. It's, I looked in the mirror too, because that's what we all do when we get out of the shower. And I just kind of looked and said, what the heck? Like, how did you let yourself go? And growing up as an athlete, I played sports, like most people, active around those ages, and just things got away. We got a little bit lenient. I ate out a lot, got into, previously drinking quite a bit, just things that, you go through when you move out of your parents' house, And so, the number one thing that I started when I started my health and fitness journey was running. And I don't know why we all think that we have to start running, because not everybody loves to run and not everybody's really good at it, right? And so, and like Dustin says, if you see him running, you better run too. Something bad's coming. So started running, started doing some high intensity interval training, started some home workouts, just streaming, whether that be on YouTube or it was Beachbody at the time. Joining clubs was the biggest thing for me, is surrounding myself with other individuals who were working on themselves as well. Then came along, learning how to eat, learning the importance of protein, learning the importance of portion control. Because like we said earlier, it's really hard, because when you're growing up, my family, we just didn't practice, healthy nutrition. And, they teach what's the pyramids, food pyramid. Yeah. And I think they teach My Plate now in schools. But it's super important to know what you're putting in your body and realizing, how does that make you feel? Because food is fuel. We're supposed to enjoy food. And so moving on, learning how to eat, seeing some progress on the scale, seeing some inches being lost in the clothes, being able to go shopping and make that be exciting. From there, I got the inclination to start really lifting weights. And learning that the more muscle mass that we have on our body, the more calories that we're going to burn at rest. And it's really what's going to get you that lean tone physique. started bodybuilding actually. So with resistance training, fell in love, had a goal to step on stage. So I stepped on stage twice as a figure competitor, got to step into a teeny weeny bikini and some heels. But it was the best experience that I could ever have, because that's where my body really transformed, and it was really nutrition wise. And so seeing that, it, just like Dustin here, really made me want to give back to others and teach people that our bodies are amazing machines and they can truly do whatever you want them to do as long as you're willing to put in the work.
So you guys were talking a lot about mental.
Yes.
And my biggest issue is consistency.
Yes.
I will have times and periods where I'm so committed to working out, I'm driven, I'm eating good, and then a crash. And I'm like, and then I stop doing the healthy habits. And then again, picking it up and dropping it. So what are your tips and advice for people like that?
Yeah, one of the things that you might be going there, but I always like the analogy of like you get a flat tire, right? Because we're bound to get sick at some point. We're bound to have something bad happen in our life when we're just trying to work on ourselves or do good things. And so we always use the analogy, if you get a flat tire, do you get out and slash the other three? No, right? Like, nope. You're going to change that tire and you're going to get back on the road, right? So we always talk about making the next right decision. Even if it's one bad meal or one missed day, listen, you have another opportunity the next day or that next meal or that next hour. So it's just getting in that mentality of like, you can change it, right? You're always in charge of your own thoughts. You talk to yourself the most. So practice how you talk to yourself. It's okay. Give yourself some grace.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, talking to yourself. Yeah. People aren't even aware that they do that. They just hear thoughts and they're like, whatever, that's how I think.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about being nice to yourself?
Yeah. I think it's really important, and that's probably one of the first things people can focus on, because it's something that we all do. Throughout the day, you talk to yourself, like Mandi said, more than you talk to anybody else. And in fact, we have anywhere between 80 and 90,000 thoughts every single day.
It's crazy. Wow. That's a lot.
But the interesting thing about that is 90% of those thoughts are exactly the same every single day.
Yeah.
And so if we're constantly thinking the same thoughts, and particularly if they're negative thoughts about ourselves, because we are always our own worst critics, right? And I guess one of the things that, to kind of put a cap on that is I always, we always talk to people about, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Mm-hmm. You have to hold yourself accountable, and you're just honest. Like, that was a poor decision. I shouldn't have, skipped that workout, or I shouldn't have had that third donut, or whatever it is. But then you have to grant yourself a little bit of grace. The same way you would talk to your best friend, you'd say, that probably wasn't a good decision, but it's not the end of the world. We're okay, and we're going to move forward.
What can we do next?
Yeah. What do we do now?
Now, how does somebody shift those thoughts? How did you shift your mentality when you were starting to work out and beginning of your journey?
It's tough, and it's really about being self-aware. It's about recognizing that those thoughts and those conversations within your own head are happening. It's one of the things we also talk about a lot is consistency, not perfection. And one of the things that you kind of asked about earlier is we're all in for a while, and then something happens, and then we're all out. And that's again the all or nothing mentality, right?
Got to shift that.
Yes, right.
Because it's almost impossible, and we don't like to speak in absolutes, but it's really difficult to be 100% on point every single day. It's just not realistic too. And to that point, what kind of life is that if you never do anything fun? You only eat chicken and rice and broccoli all day every day, and you only go to the gym, and you don't go out and see your friends or see your family for Thanksgiving or
nobody wants that type of life, right? Like perfection really truly doesn't exist, and it's boring if you think about it. But I think just stacking wins, one win after another, is going to help build that momentum to want to get back to the gym, to want to get back to that meal prep or whatever that may be, that goal of yours. But that kind of brings us, you have to be specific on that goal that you're trying to achieve. And we always say, like, your why should make you cry, right? It should.
Yeah.
It needs to be so strong that, like, when those bad days come, you remember, like, why you're on this journey, what you're working towards.
So let's say we have a new beginner. What is step one? Is it having a goal or is it shifting your mentality and thoughts? What do you guys recommend?
I think
Having a goal.
I think you have to be real crystal clear on where we're trying to go. So, if you're trying to get to Florida and you just say, I want to go to Florida, well, but you don't know how long it's going to take you to get there. You don't know where you're going. You don't even know what direction
How many
to
gas
drive.
stations, how much gas you need.
It's really tough to get to
Yep.
Florida, right? And you're, if you use that in a health and fitness setting, let's just say somebody weighs 200 pounds and you just say, I want to lose some weight or I want to work out a little bit more. Well, if you lose, 1/10 of a pound, you've achieved that goal. And there's no real urgency to continue, especially when you've had that bad day or that bad decision. So I think getting real crystal clear
Specific.
on where you're trying to go and,
And then working on a way, like, how are you going to measure that progress? Are you going to be using a food tracking system? Are you going to be using a scale? Does it have body fat measurements? Are you going to be measuring yourself with the old school tape measure?
Yeah.
How are you going to measure those results with that specific goal in mind? And then from there, achievable. Is this goal that you have set realistic and achievable? Because that's the next one, right? It has to be achievable and realistic.
And I think putting a time bound element, and honestly, if you're following along, what we're talking about is SMART goals.
SMART goals.
Right? Really, really specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound.
Yep.
I got to write those down.
Yes, SMART goals. Yes.
And I think when you're first starting, it's really easy to say, I just want to lose 10 pounds, right? But if somebody realistically has 80 pounds to lose, saying I want to lose 10 pounds, it's not enough to drive you forward, right? It's not enough to keep you on track on those days when you've got two options. You've got what you should do and what sounds more fun to do. So what we like to do is put a time-bound element on that, is because that can help get you back on track a little bit quicker, knowing that vacation next February is coming. I've only got so much time, or that wedding in June, or whatever that thing is that's looming in the distance, and it's used to help hold yourself accountable to doing the things you say you wanted to do.
I'm going to speak for myself.
Yeah.
I give myself too much grace. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
okay. I'll be nice to myself. I had a long day at work.
Yep.
How do I motivate myself to get out of bed that day? How do I keep it consistent?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that's something that's very relevant, and I think a lot of people do.
A lot of
that.
people
I'll be honest with
struggle
you,
with
we
that.
still
Yeah.
struggle with that too. And we're certainly not perfect by any means, but I think one of the things that's really important is, again, understanding why you want to do it. It's just because you think you should, or is it because I've got to get up and go for my run this morning because I'm running Grandma's marathon next year, or something like that. And that can help really kind of keep you on track. And I think we've got some cool tricks to kind of stop you from hitting that snooze alarm or whatever. And Mandy, you want to touch on the 5 seconds?
Yeah, I think, again, being so clear on that why, and making sure that you're surrounded by people who are going to hold you accountable. But also, like, we always talk about, you are where you are because of the things you've been doing.
The habits
The habits that you have now is exactly where you are because that's what you have been doing. So you have to start to change your habits if you want something different. We always use the words, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? And if you think about that, nothing's going to change if you don't change.
Gotcha.
And I think this is all it's good mindset stuff,
Yes.
but tactically, how do you do that? Something as simple as if you use your cell phone as your alarm clock, like most of us do.
Yep.
You put and if you're prone to snoozing, it's probably on the
Me.
right? And it's probably on the nightstand or the table right next to your bed, right? It's really easy to go and then just roll over and go back to sleep. If you take that phone and put it across the room, you make yourself get up and shut it off. You're up out of bed already. Other things like setting your your workout gear out like right next to your phone, so it's right there. It's reminding you. Things like if drinking water is a struggle for you, keeping your water bottle right on the on the counter where you can see it, or
Vitamins. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Keeping them on the
Vitamins.
counter because I
Yes.
forgot to take them.
100%.
So many people forget that
and
part.
even things like that. Set a reminder in your phone. Set an alarm on your phone that says take your vitamins, or drink some water, or whatever.
The
that is.
the 5 second rule, right? Like this is what you're gonna do. Count to 5, or count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up. That's all you
go.
got. It's a 5-second
I'm
rule.
gonna do
You
that
can-
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, you can use the 5-second rule on anything,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
maybe that's grazing along the Thanksgiving buffet. You know
Right,
what I
so-
mean?
yeah.
5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it.
Yeah,
Right.
going.
You know, keep going. On to the next.
I do want to ask you this question. So, compare yourselves to the beginning of your journey and where you are now. What have you seen positive come out of it? Other than your physical changes, mental. I'm so curious to know what mentally has changed.
Yeah, for me, I am deeper in my relationships. I am more sensitive to, how do I word that? I'm more aware of my surroundings. I have more energy. I can focus. I'm a better spouse. I'm a better friend. I'm a better daughter. And truthfully, it's just a more patient person.
Love that.
I think, for me, one of the things that's really changed for me over the years is, it used to be where, if I would go out with the boys and we, there was pizza in front of me, like I couldn't stop, like I had to eat it. Or, if somebody put a beer in front of me, I would drink it, and it's just because that's what everybody was doing. And at a certain point, I regained control over those things like that. I'm not controlled by that pizza or those chips or whatever. If I have some, it's because I choose to do it. And it's really a powerful thing to not let an inanimate object kind of control you. Because you said for we all have our sweet spot, right? Whatever, if
Yeah.
it's chocolate or whatever it is, like you just can't say no to it. I look at it like that thing is now in control of you.
Wow.
So that was something that really switched for me, is when I was able to say no, which allows me to say yes, because I know how it's going to affect me, and I know I can weigh whether is it worth it. Like Thanksgiving obviously is a holiday where a lot of people kind of like to kind of go off the rails, and that's okay as long as it's a decision. And then we know what every decision has consequences. That doesn't mean good or bad. It just is what it is. And knowing what's going to happen and being okay with that. Like some things are worth it and some things are just not worth it.
Gotcha. And we are wrapping up on time, and you've inspired me.
Yes.
So, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give viewers at home? If you could put it in a sentence.
Boy.
I know that's a lot to ask.
know,
but
that's
I am curious, because
Yeah.
the biggest goal of Motivational Monday is to inspire others at home and get them up and kind of change their lifestyle, change their habits, because nobody wants to be in the same place forever, So what's one piece of advice that you would give somebody at home or your younger selves?
Yeah. I think if somebody's listening, or even it would be me, 10 or 12 years ago, I would tell them that it doesn't have to be this way. If you're unhappy with where you are, it doesn't have to be this way. And the best way to start is to just start. And that doesn't mean you have to change everything. That means no more
Pick
no more
one
sweets
thing.
ever. There's no more soda. There's no more pizza. There's no more anything. If you try and change everything all at once, it's really difficult to deal with. I would pick what can you commit to, and then commit to that, and then
build off of
add
that.
another thing. That's right. If maybe it's just drinking water today instead of 6 Mountain Dews. I'm going to have 2 Mountain Dews and 4 glasses of water, and just build on those things, because the best way to build momentum is to stack those wins.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for
Yes.
coming on. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank
Thanks
you
so much
again.
for the opportunity.
Thanks for having
I hope
us.
this
Yeah.
inspires people at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.